Hello there. You're a little bit closer than usual. And that's for good reason. Today, we've got a pretty small product, so I thought we'd get a little bit closer so we can get a good look at this thing. So what we have today is the Nobsound NS-10G Pro 100 watt Bluetooth 5.0 power amplifier and a bunch of other words on Amazon. It's a $40 Bluetooth amplifier, 2-channel. So I picked this thing up because I needed something for my sunroom to go with my Polk TSI 100s. I wanted something that was going to be unobtrusive, that I could just basically tape under a table, plug it in, and forget that it's there. And this fits the bill perfectly. There's really no interface or controls on it besides a on-off switch, and I love that about it. But before that, let's go into the specs. So, specs. It is 50 watts by 2 channels, which is false, but that's all right. It still puts out a good bit of power for what it is. We'll go into that soon after we get through the specs. Size, which is probably the most important thing about this. It is 3 inches wide, so from here to here, 1 inch tall, and with the speaker terminals included, it's about 3 inches deep, which is absolutely tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand. You could throw it in a pocket, throw it in a school bag. You could really put this anywhere. You could tape it under a table and nobody would ever know it's there. So it has Bluetooth. It says 5.0, but it also says 4.2 plus if you go through the Amazon listing for it. Regardless, it's rated at being up to 15 meters of Bluetooth range, which is about 49 feet. So let's get to that power before we move on to anything else. So you can disprove the power with just math. So if it's rated at 50 watts by 2 channels, that's a total output of 100 watts. So to achieve that, you would need about a little bit under 9 amps of power, like 8.5 amps of power. The power brick that it comes with, before that, if you don't have an understanding of circuits, in order to calculate power output, you multiply your voltage by your amperage, and that gives you watts. So the power brick it comes with has a rated output of 12 volts. Oh, stay focused. 12 volts at 5 amps. So 12 times 5 is 60. And divided by 2 among both channels would be 30 watts per channel, which is still pretty impressive. And you see this thing, 30 watts per channel, it's like 10 watts per square inch. That's ridiculous. Math is bad. That's not necessarily true because it's cubed. But if you were to just do the square, the width and because the depth of it, that includes the speaker terminals. It's about 2.5 inches deep without those. But anyway, that's a digression. So yeah, still pretty impressive output. And if you go to the spec sheet for the chip used, they do let you know what that is in the description on Amazon. It's the Texas Instruments TPA 3116. They say it's the upgraded version. So I looked at the spec sheet for 3116D2, I believe. And that chip is rated for 2 by 50 watts at 4 ohms. So the chip that's included in this is capable of the rated power, but the only thing is that the power supply they give you, it can't provide that power unless you're breaking physics. And at that point, you're getting into way different realms, and I don't think that they're breaking any physics here. More on the power adapter. This thing is actually bigger than the amp. I'll just show you that real quick. It's about twice the size of the amp. Kind of funny. It doesn't come with any detachable power cords either. You just get this one big, well, it's not really that big. You get a brick with some cables coming in and out of it. Simple. So let's talk about interface, or lack thereof, actually. As you can see on the front, if it focuses, you've got an aux and an on-off switch. Nothing else on the back, just the power. and the speaker terminals. And I like that. Most of Nobsound's other amplifiers, they have like a knob on the top or something up front, and I really didn't want that. I really wanted this to be something that I would just plug in, flip the switch on and off, and then control everything from my phone. So I'm never even going to use the aux. I didn't even try to test it because it's not applicable to what I'm using it for. And I really don't think anybody else would use the aux on this, quite honestly. Unless it could pass through for a subwoofer. And even that, I wouldn't do that. I would just hook up high level inputs. Because the speaker terminals, they accept banana plugs, which is really cool. I like that. Because I'm actually going to hook these up by banana plugs. I don't usually use them, but this is kind of necessary. If you put wires through the bottom or the top, it starts to make it pretty unbalanced because this thing weighs basically nothing. If you put them through the bottom, you're forced to have it hanging off of an edge, basically. Because the wires, if they're, all right, well, it's hard to explain because you can't see my table. But if you have wires going through the bottom, then it's going to kind of tilt it up. And it's just going to be sliding all over the place. So you have to put them through the top. But if you put them through the top and there's nothing like weighing this amp down, then it has a tendency to start to lean upwards because the wires are heavier than this little thing. So banana plugs are almost necessary for this, which I had my head mic the wrong way. I like that. I like the banana plug. It's cool. That's what I want it for. And it almost makes it necessary, and that's fine because I'm putting this into a permanent application. But if you're using this to like carry around or something, because you can, it's very tiny. You could just have a pair of speaker cables that have some banana plugs on it already. They're really not that expensive, and it's really easy to set up banana plugs. So let's see. Interface. Price, $40 on Amazon. Which is pretty cheap for a, let's just say 30 watt by 2-channel amplifier. That's not bad. I mean, yeah, it's limited on the interface, and you kind of have to curb your expectations in terms of sound whenever you're at this price point. But it's not bad. It's also sold by Duke Audio. Pretty well known by now in the audiophile community for making very cheap hi-fi components. Not always the best, but not necessarily the worst. Definitely better than cheap stuff from the past. So, how does it sound? It actually doesn't sound too bad. It's pretty damn good. I had these hooked up to my Polk TSI 100s. They have a rated sensitivity of 89 decibels, and the impedance on those is 8 ohms. So it pushes those. Well, I'm sorry if I sniffle at any point. I'm kind of going through a sinus infection, pollen everywhere. It's awful. Kind of why I didn't have a video last week, but that's for later. So yeah, using an 8 ohm speaker with a sensitivity of 89 decibels, you have to get some good sound. At about 50-60% volume, it actually fills up a room pretty nicely, and you don't get any distortion at that point. You start noticing distortion. This is all on like my iPhone X, just using Spotify. I started noticing distortion around 70-80% volume, which is not bad, because it's pretty loud at that point. If you have it like in a desktop application, you're probably not gonna reasonably want to listen that loud, unless you just really like listening to music very loud, which is fine. I do that in my setup. But I had this hooked up in my office right whenever I got it in, probably a month or two ago. Sorry, I gotta sniff it real quick. Let me just. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah, I had this hooked up in my office, and I just had it playing background music at about 60% volume. Filled up my office just fine for about 2 or 3 hours. Couldn't complain. Sound on it's good. It does kind of drown out the highs a little bit. So highs get a little bit more veiled with this. So if you have a bright speaker, this actually would probably pair pretty well with it. I haven't used a bright speaker on it, but just use my Polks, which are decently balanced. On my usual amp, they have a pretty good sound signature in the high ranges, but this would probably tone down a bright speaker a little bit. Bass is still pronounced and just fine, which is good because I have those Polks for my sunroom setup because I don't want a subwoofer with it, which is why I just got a 2-channel amp. Even though you still can hook a subwoofer up to it, just as you're just using high level inputs. I want something that would work well without a sub, and honestly, I think this would be perfect. I don't want a sub in that room. It's a small room and it's kind of outdoors halfway. So this is really perfect for that application. And it doesn't decrease bass in any way. Highs are a little bit lower. Mid-range is still perfectly just fine. It doesn't really diminish that in any way. So it's not really, okay, so it's not hi-fi. You're not going to get crazy, insane listening experience out of this. You're not going to have your mind blown by hearing details you haven't heard before. It does veil a few details here and there. But if you want that super hi-fi experience, you're not gonna pay $40 for a Bluetooth amplifier. That's just unreasonable, unless you're getting some kind of steal at a flea market. But for this, it's actually putting out some pretty decent sound, very decent quality. It's not lacking. I never really even noticed or cared if things were missing, because this is more just something to put on in the background. It's not for critical listening. I don't think it ever will claim to be for critical listening. The only thing it does say hi-fi DSP on the front, but everything's going to say hi-fi on it. It's just marketing. But speaking of marketing, Nobsound says that the lack of other inputs, volume knobs, interface in any way, gives it a pure sound, and that reviewers say that it's got a clean sound to it. And I think that's pretty accurate. The sound on it is clean. It doesn't really, except it does veil highs a little bit. Other than that, the sound seems pretty normal on it. I honestly can't complain. In terms of applications for this, I wouldn't put this in like a hi-fi scenario. Your only way to get music through it is going to be through aux or Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth is either 4.2 plus or 5.0. Not anything special, no aptX or anything, no high quality music files are going to be noticeable through this. Nothing high bit rate. But if you maybe have some kind of outdoor setting where you can keep this shielded pretty easily in anything. It is so tiny, and it really doesn't produce much heat at all. Like, the whole thing is a heat sink, of course. It's actually made of like a pretty decent material. It's not plastic. It seems a bit more like just some kind of like decent insulator. But it really doesn't put out too much heat. So you could probably put this in like a plastic, just like literally like a to-go container, and just drill some holes for your speaker wire to put it through if you want to put this outside, and then just kind of like seal up the holes with like some silicone or something. And this would work beautifully. Just have it outside, like for an outdoor speaker setup. This would be perfect for a garage, so that way you don't have to fiddle with anything while you're working around. Just turn it on. When you do turn it on, there's a blue light that lets you know it's on. Minor details. So you just turn it on, it'll pair to your phone, and you can just listen to some tunes. Or if you have like a shop or like a storefront, and you want to hook up some speakers and you just want a cheap system to run it through, this would be perfect. You can pair these with, say, like the Mookie M20-1s, which are an alright speaker. You can pair these two together for about, with the cost of speaker wire, like $120, $130, and you're going to have a pretty good system for your little store. You can play music and keep your customers entertained, or yourself entertained if you don't have customers, or if you, or whatever. It's a great way to just be able to play music through a set of speakers very easily, very simply, no frills, none to be found anywhere on it. The only way you can control volume is through whatever input device you're using. So like my phone, just use the volume rocker on it. Volume goes up and down. Simple. You don't have to mess with this at any point. You just have to turn it on. That's it. You flip the switch and you're ready to go. So recommendation for this product, I'd recommend it for anyone, really. As long as you have a set of speakers. If you have a few sets of speakers, you like moving them around the house, this would be great to go with it. You can literally put this in your pocket, or if you like going buy speakers from people, you show it to their house to say, oh, I don't have them set up anymore. I don't even have an amp anymore. You can bring this with you. $40, easy way to test speakers, make sure they're not busted. And I might start doing that whenever I go buy speakers from people. Because some people literally are just like handing you speakers in a box and expect that they just work fine. And that's okay. I don't have any issue with that most of the time. But this is a good way to be just like a little speaker tester. Hooks up through Bluetooth, so you don't have to bring your phone. You don't even have to just bring anything special to play music through it. It even hooks up through aux, so you just use an aux cable if that's your thing. I don't use aux though. I don't think it's a good standard. But anyway, yeah, it's a pretty good device, especially for $40. That's very cheap for how much power you're getting. So it's about like 2 channels, 30 watts. I didn't notice any distortion for the most part, up to about 75-ish volume, percent volume. And I was running it with an 8-ohm speaker. So if we're taking the total power draw of this 30, that should be so 30 watts per channel should be at 4 ohms. I'm running 8-ohm speakers, so in theory I should be getting max 15 to 20 watts out of this for an 8-ohm setup per channel. Yes, per channel. And that's honestly more than enough. For most people, you don't really need that much power unless you have really low sensitivity speakers. Thankfully, those Polks that I'm running are pretty high sensitivity at 89 decibels. It's not the highest, but I've had lower. I've had like 81 dB speakers, and those are decently hard to push at that point. But yeah, even for like lower impedance speakers, if you have like a 4-ohm speaker that has a decently high sensitivity, you're still going to get some good power from it. You should be getting about 30 watts per channel at max. So with distortion accounted for, that's probably a bit more like 20 to 25 watts that you're really going to be able to get from it before you start noticing a degradation in your audio experience. But yeah, it's a really good product. I highly recommend it. And if you want this product, if you think it's pretty cool, which I mean, I do. Look how tiny it is. Do you see this? It literally fits in your hand. I'll have a Amazon affiliate link in the description to it, as well with some speaker recommendations to pair with this, because it really is a really good little unit. And I think that'll be it for this one. Just a little update on the channel. Sorry I didn't release a video last week. I've been a little busy. I really wanted to make a video last week, but I really didn't know what I wanted to make a video on. I had a few different things and a few different ideas floating around, and I just couldn't agree on anything with myself. And then I got a sinus infection, so I sounded like poopy doo-doo because I couldn't breathe through my nose at all. Today it finally cleared up, so thankfully I'll be able to put out a video this week. But I'm going to try to stick to that one video every Wednesday. It's really not that hard to do. And I've got a few different video ideas that don't even really include products. So there are other things that I can do if I can't decide on a product. I might just line up some videos just to make sure I have something every week, because the channel is growing, and I really do appreciate that. I'm not really in it for like having a following or anything, but I do really enjoy the interaction with you guys. Some of you have been leaving comments, and I love reading them. I love responding to them. I've responded to every single comment. It's pretty cool. I'm up to 22 subscribers as well, which is kind of crazy. I don't know. That's just wild to me. And one of my videos almost has 1,000 views, so that's also really cool. So the channel is doing well, and I just think that's cool. Not making money from this, and I don't really ever plan on making money from this. That's not what I set out to do with this channel. It's more just an info dump for those who want it, and for myself as well, just to keep my thoughts documented. So with all that said, thank you. I really appreciate it, especially my subscribers. I'm never going to ask anybody to subscribe, so this is not me begging for subscribers, but I do appreciate those who have decided to do that on their own volition. So yeah, I think that's enough ranting and raving for today. I'm Grant with Tech and Grant. See you in the next one.